Okay, so yeah, as Kevin said, I'm Tim Rose. I'm a principal lecturer at University of Brighton and have a responsibility for our employment-based routes, particularly tonight, thinking about troops to teachers. I've got a presentation which is focused very much on schools who may be employing a non-graduate service leaver, either in an unqualified teaching position or perhaps in a non-teaching role. And that's mainly because we're just at the moment switching our recruitment focus for next year's programme to try and capture what we know is a small market of service leavers who are already experienced, already working in schools. And we're hoping to start a small group in October who will then be able to join the rest of the cohort who are going to begin in September. Obviously, we're still also interested in picking up any remaining candidates for September as well, so it's a bit of both. Excuse me. Just to give you an overview of the Troops Teachers Programme for those who don't know very much about it. Obviously, this has been running now for a couple of years. We've got Cohorts 1 and Cohorts 2 up and running, and they've been very, very successful and a really fantastic programme for us to be involved with. And I think as you've heard with the graduate service leaver that you've just been speaking to, we've got trainees with a real can-do attitude who are really having a big impact in the schools that they're working in. And as a knock-on, their employability in their own training schools has been very, very good. So in terms of the way the programme works, it is the only national employment-based route for non-graduate students. It's a 2-year programme. It's run by a network of universities. We've got 7 universities involved, with University of Brighton controlling the programme from the centre. We've invested in all sorts of new ways of working with trainees, invested heavily in web-based technologies, and really pushed the boundaries with the way that we're able to deal with our cohorts at a distance over the whole of England. We have trainees from Cornwall all the way up to Cumbria and just about anywhere you can think of in between. And also in the way that we're working with both primary and secondary trainees simultaneously, sometimes in a common cohort and sometimes in specialist breakout groups. So it's been a really interesting programme to be involved with. We also have an enhanced leadership and management programme which is available to the trainees as part of the second year of their non-graduate programme, and we are currently making that available for service leavers who come through the graduate route as part of their NQT year, which Gareth alluded to earlier. That's only, as far as I understand, only going to be for trainees who are currently doing their graduate training this year, and it's not part of future contracts. Okay. I think Gareth has already mentioned the extended eligibility criteria, and the same applies to this programme. So we're looking for people who've completed their service within the last 5 years and who would normally have served for at least 4 years as part of the armed services. Okay. In terms of sort of feedback, I've put a couple of quotes up there on the screen, which come from, the purple ones come from one of our trainees, a secondary physics trainee, who's done exceptionally well and has secured employment already, despite the fact that he doesn't complete his studies until December. And in blue there, from one of the head teachers who's currently employing one of our trainees. So it just gives you a little bit of a flavour of the student experience and the school experience, which have in the main been very, very positive. Just looking at what we're after in a delivery school, obviously this is a 2-year programme, so it's a big commitment. So we're looking for schools who are willing to employ one of our trainees for a 2-year period. We're anticipating that those who are already in employment, that's not going to be too much of a problem, because presumably they're already on contract. So the trainee spends 2 years in the school. They benefit from on-the-job training, so that they're working. They can have a teaching load as part of the programme, as long as mentoring support is in place. And they're working in their school on a Monday to Thursday basis. So they're a 0.8 FTE member of staff as an unqualified teacher. On the Friday, we have our university-based study, because these trainees are not only getting QTS, they're also getting a University of Brighton degree, so they don't remain non-graduates, they're still graduate entrants into the teaching profession, but they're doing that as part of their training programme. So each Friday they work with us over the web from home, and they have two sorts of tasks. They have a scheduled task, which is like a formal webinar event where actually they dial in to an event, not too dissimilar to this, but they can actually see the tutor who's dealing with them, and the tutor can see them, and it's a very, very interactive process. And then they also have a self-study task where they may be doing some reading, some reflection, those sorts of things, which are directed to them in the afternoon. We also have a number of residential study periods. For cohorts 3 and 4, there will be a total of 5 weeks worth across a 2-year program. So 4 of those are full weeks, and the other one is split into a 2-day and a 3-day event. So that's 5 weeks in total over 2 years of training, and employing schools need to release those trainees to attend those events. We hold them in different regional locations. We've got one next week in Canterbury. We're starting off cohort 3 up in Huddersfield, just to try and keep the sort of travel commitment for trainees nationally fair and equal. And we cover the expenses for those events. We provide accommodation and meals, and we pay a very significant contribution to trainees' travel to attend one of those events. Those are a brilliant opportunity to get everybody together and really sort of cement the bonds within the group, which they then take forward themselves as they go back into their delivery skills. And we really do work intensively. So sessions start at 9 in the morning, and we work right through until 9 in the evening. And just to clarify that employment status there, so they're employed as a 0.8 unqualified teacher, and at the moment that's £12,908.80. There are obviously trainees in London get the additional London weightings for those for an unqualified teacher, and of course they're not paying university fees. So if you've got service leavers who are looking to enter the teaching profession and they're not yet graduates, it does represent fantastic value, despite the fact their salary might, on initial inspection, seem rather low. Compared to any other options, it is exceptional value. Okay. Moving on to the Trainee Experience, just to be clear about that. So as part of their academic programme, it's a modular programme common with many other university-based routes, but it's very much designed to support their development as teachers and their progress towards reaching the standards by the end of year 2 of the course. We have specialist modules for primary, where in year 1 they focus very much on literacy and numeracy with expert support from Bath Spa University. In year 2 they continue on that programme still with a heavy diet of literacy and numeracy, but we bring in science and some sort of tasters for the foundation subjects. Secondary trainees have obviously their subject modules, and those are taught by experts from across our university partners. So the maths is delivered by Southampton, and we have design technology delivered by Staffordshire. So that's the way the programme works. Alongside those subject modules, they have these sort of common modules looking, as you would imagine, at issues to do with learning and teaching, assessment, current issues, all of the sorts of things that make up a regular teacher training programme. So it's something you would very much recognise as a university-based programme, or indeed a skip-based programme, but it's delivered at distance. Okay. All of our students get full access to our online library at the University of Brighton, and like all universities now, that acts as a portal through to a huge array of research and readings and books and online materials, way in excess of what's available in our hard copy library here in Brighton. They submit academic assignments. Those tend to be written assignments or are assessed presentations rather than exams. So there are no exams on this programme. And we again, as is common with many of our, or most of our programmes, they have what you might look like a teaching practice, have an assessed period, and those assessed periods fall at one at the end of the first year and one at the end of the second year. Of course, they're continually being assessed, but those are the sort of formal points that we make portfolio through something called PebblePad, which we use for all of our other QTS courses at University of Brighton. And that's their sort of place where they're able to upload evidence of their progress against the standards, as well as their action plans and their reflections and all those other things. And one of the great things is, as you see at the bottom there, they're able to enjoy the benefits offered to other students, so they can join the student union, they can get their half-price pizzas and cinema tickets and things like that. Okay. Just to be clear about what we're looking for, again, we've got that at least 4 years, or normally at least 4 years in the armed services, completed the service in 5 years of making an application. So it's not 5 years of starting the course, it's within 5 years of making an application. We have exactly the same requirement in terms of GCSEs. There's grade C or above in English and Maths for all trainees, with primary trainees also required to have the same for science or A science. We have our own equivalency test, and we're able to accept equivalency from a number of different places. The complex thing about eligibility for the non-graduate program is that this is what we call an advanced standing route. Effectively, what that means is that we're able to take account of previous study to match the equivalent of 1 year of a university degree. So as you're all aware, university degrees are normally 3 years long, and this is a 2-year program. And we do that by awarding credit or accepting credit from other places before a trainee is able to start. So we're looking for 120 CATS points, or 120 credits for a trainee to be eligible. The CATS stands for Credit and Accumulation Transfer Scheme, and that's a common program right across higher education in the UK. So 120 credits at level 4 or above. If for a primary trainee, that's normally relatively straightforward. If they have something like an H&C, H&D, or they've done a Cert Ed or part of a university degree or some open university modules, or they've got military qualifications in leadership and management, of which many of them do, we can normally find 120 credits from a well-qualified applicant. For secondary, it's a little bit more complicated. Our university academic regulations obviously require that 120 credits should be related to the subject that they want to teach. So someone wants to teach maths, we would normally expect them to have 120 credits in a maths-related subject. Now, obviously, if they've been engineers or had a very technical background, we can often find that within their service qualifications or other things. But we do have a number of trainees who are working now towards cohort 4, who are spending the next 12 months working on additional qualifications to meet that requirement. If a trainee has a significant number of CATS points, and we do have many trainees who come with 240 plus CATS points, obviously that significant accumulation of credit, we are able to exercise a little bit of flexibility. But if they've just got 120 credits and they want to teach secondary, they really do need to be in the subject that they want to teach. And just again, to highlight at the bottom there, we take applications through ucas.com, just like any other non-graduate or undergraduate route into teaching. In terms of what we're looking for in an application, we have a very extensive scrutiny sort of process. University of Brighton has offered one-to-one support and advice for hundreds of potential applicants so far this year, and we would encourage anybody who's thinking of going on the program to talk to us first, to discuss their eligibility before they make an application, because there's a cost associated with making an application, and we're very happy to advise pre-application. As a result, actually, many of the candidates who've come through with applications have been successful. They've been pre-screened, they've been sort of coached through their application process, so they're in a very good place. One of the things that we're looking for, obviously, as common with other routes, is experience in school. As much for the trainee as for us, we want them to be really sure that this is something that they definitely want to do. We are able to support them through that. They can access the school experience program. We have over 100 schools nationally who've registered an interest or are already participating in the program, and we've been able to link people up like that. The school experience is really, really useful and certainly helps them get themselves through the interview process. We have found, due to the nature of service leavers and their experience of work, they're different from normal applicants. So So if you've been posted abroad for years, or you've been to and from Afghanistan, actually getting school experience in a way that some of our other career changes are able to do is difficult. So we do try to support them as much as possible with that. Obviously, the professional skills test requirement is exactly the same for them. And again, we're supporting our Cohort 3 trainees as they come through with their professional skills test. We also require a good reference, and we normally would get a reference from a senior military commander, someone who's had a line managing role for an applicant. But for trainees, for applicants who've been out of the services for a few years, that can be a line manager from work-based situations as well, which is quite common. Okay. We hold, the interview process is really in two parts. We have a program selection event, which is run by the universities, and that's where we interview, check eligibility, do all of the normal document and ID checks that you will be familiar with for any teacher training route. It's where we do a written task, we do a presentation with a little group activity, and we have an interview. So the interview process you would find very familiar in comparison to PGC routes, school direct routes, and other routes that you're involved with. What's different about this program is that being successful at that event doesn't necessarily guarantee you a place. It guarantees that we will put you through the school matching process. So we then start contacting schools to seek someone to employ the trainee for the 2 year of their program. Our decisions are fully moderated, again, in a way that you'll be very familiar with, and we release those decisions just like any other program through UCAS. Obviously, all offers are subject to the successful school matching, but also the DBS and the normal health clearances associated with employment as an unqualified teacher. So far, everybody who we've brought to interview has either been offered a place for Cohort 3, or they have been coached with what they need to do to make sure that they've got what they need to be successful with Cohort 4. So in terms of who we've actually physically invited to interview, we're technically on a 100% success rate at the moment. It's been very, very good. But as I say, that's because of a lot of pre-vetting, a lot of pre-coaching, a lot of one-to-one advice from the University of Brighton. And I have to say that the calibre of candidates is truly exceptional. So, you know, I've been involved in teacher education since 1998 in universities, and dealt with a lot of career changes, and this group is really, really fantastic and just easily as good as the best of other career changes I've come across. A very inspiring group to work with. So just finally, just a thought about why a school might want to develop a current member of their staff, or put someone forward, or advise someone to move towards the Troops to Teachers programme. We think we've got a very inspiring and relevant teaching team drawing on expertise across 7 universities, and we are very well placed to offer expert advice and support. Even at a distance, it works very, very well. There is a very, very strong sense of community within the programme. The trainees certainly look out for each other and offer advice and support, and we're part of that. And despite the fact you might be, you know, the only trainee in Gloucestershire, as it might be, you don't feel isolated, and that there is a very strong sense of community within each cohort and within the whole programme as well. Our employment rates are really fantastic. We're just about to sort of confirm those and publish them after when we meet the troops next week, but certainly well in excess of half, more like 60-70% of Cohort 1 trainees have already secured employment, and they don't finish their training until December of this year, so they've still got effectively 6 months of their programme still to go. We benchmark their achievements against other comparable groups, such as PGCE and other undergraduate routes, and they've consistently compared favourably. So their achievement is very good. And finally, you know, it's a programme which is bespoke. It's designed specifically for service leavers, and we really do value the service backgrounds and the sort of potential that they have as teachers, but also as leaders, and significant elements of the workforce when they've completed their programme. And I would just say on a personal note, when I first got involved with this programme, I had very little. understanding of military backgrounds and wasn't quite sure what to expect. But as I say, I've fully converted and think this is an absolutely fantastic program. I'm just going to put up some contact details if you need to get in touch with us or you want to pass these details on to a service leaver or a school that you know is employing a service leaver.